All right, hello. We are here live at Kalahari. Oh, we are now live at Ohio HR Conference at Kalahari. I am joined for our very first guest of the evening, Tom, who is the guest for his third time. Second?
Second time.
So
Unplanned this way, but
this one's
second time.
there's another one on deck, I believe,
There
right?
might be one on
There might
deck.
be one
Might be,
on deck.
yes.
Okay. So we have four questions today.
Okay.
Like I said, we're live.
Okay.
And the first question is, tell me about yourself and tell the HR Like a Boss community about you.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks for having me on the podcast. This is great. So I am born and raised in Northeast Ohio. My name's Tom Ludwick. I work for a company called Tetra Tech. Tetra Tech is a publicly traded company, engineering design company, global. We work in over 100 countries. And for my role, I'm an HR director. Been in HR in Northeast Ohio for the last 15 plus years. And yeah, I guess sort of that's where I'm at. I do some talent acquisition and also some more coaching and that sort of thing for performance. So I hand it back to you.
Thank you. And how do you describe the purpose of HR?
I think it's best described as sort of the conduit. You're the conduit within the organization to bring in talent, to help recruit talent, as well as everybody in the organization. But at the end of the day, our client is everybody working there at that organization. So communication, the grease, whatever that is, the bonding material, you're helping put things together. Some would call that org development, but at the end of the day, it could be a lot easier than just saying something so complicated as org development.
Yes. And you were recently on a panel at the TA SIG, and you shared a lot of really exciting information about how you're recruiting a little bit differently. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah. So speed, inefficiencies, everything. Post COVID, whatever you want to call it, maybe it's generations coming into the workforce now, but it's being more human with the approach, showing some vulnerability, having a little bit more of a fresh mindset. But what's your competitive advantage? And I think what better way than to be able to say, hey, we're trying to make a connection here. We're going to show you what we're about. We're going to set those expectations so you're aware of what's under the hood at our organization, good, bad, and ugly, but to set the tone, if you will. So I think from a TA standpoint, that's where it's moving into in that direction for the next 5 years and beyond.
Absolutely. All right. So going back to today, now I know you're doing the commute.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a little bit of stressful. But other than that, what's your one takeaway so far?
Yeah, I loved it. Awesome. Johnny C. Taylor Jr. was here. He talked about being courageous or having courage. So you have the seat at the table, the proverbial table. Now, what are you doing with it? And not only should you be helping provide the intake and the the data piece of it, understanding what's out there, what's happening in our organization, but also being courageous, giving examples of things that we can do better to attract the right talent, to bring in that talent, onboard them efficiently, get them up to speed quicker. If somebody's leaving an organization quicker, you want them up to speed, plugging in quicker. So that whole idea of being courageous, but also on top of that, we've had a lot of good speakers. It's been a good experience.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So how would you, and you've had a chance to do this a couple times. So
Yeah.
how would you describe someone who does HR like a boss?
How would I describe that person? I think being transparent to an extent that they can, being able to communicate at a high level, maybe over communicate, some would say. I think those are all things that are needed to HR like a boss.
Wonderful. Oh, wait, we had someone. Are you going to be on our show next? Awesome. Okay, I just wanted to get him before. Thank you. Welcome. Tom. Yes. Bridget, nice to meet you. Or nice to re-meet you. Thank you, Tom. All right. So again, we are here at the Ohio HR Conference at Kalahari. I am here with Craig.
Yes.
And would you tell the HR Like a Boss community a little bit about you, a little bit about your background, where you work, all that fun stuff?
Absolutely. So, Craig Gabel, I'm with One Digital. Really have spent the last 17 years helping employers kind of use retirement as a key benefit within their benefit strategy and workforce strategy. So really help them in that regard.
Yes, and I know you were one of our partners in promoting Disrupt HR Columbus.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing a little bit about why you guys decided to get involved in that event?
Yeah, I think that event was just being able to have a creative way and a creative outlet to help employers reach their workforce, to learn in a very relaxed way, right? Every day can be stressed, especially HR people.
Yes.
There's so much on their plates, and I think it's just a phenomenal way to provide some stress relief, along with some great content from some phenomenal speakers that were there,
Yes.
to just encourage them to continue to help their workforce thrive. So,
And I feel as if I was surprised because you out enthusiastic me, and that is incredibly hard.
well, see, I've got my glasses.
You've
They're
got
not us.
lessons, you've got a lay, you're ready for tonight for the party tonight.
Yes, right.
Now, what is what is One Digital's involvement with Ohio Sherm? You have a booth.
We do. We have a booth here, booth number 77.
You're
Here,
down from Willery, I believe.
that's right. Yeah, giving away chance to win a margarita machine. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's kind of our theme. So
Especially
very
right
fun.
now.
That's right. And yeah, just supporting. We've got a number of clients that are here, and just supporting the community, trying to help them grow as they continue to look at their workforce. Right.
Wonderful. All right. So, how do you describe the purpose of human resources?
The purpose of human resources, I think, for me, is really about understanding the human element of it, right? It's in the name, but being very empathetic to the workforce and understanding that people come from such diverse scenarios and backgrounds, and then constructing services and solutions within the workforce, obviously within the budgetary constraints of every employer. There's always that. But really trying to help them feel like they're part of a family, and that it's a place they can go to say, hey, I'm struggling. Hey, I want to grow. That they're comfortable to have those real conversations to help them further themselves. So I think that's really creating a comfort for the workforce to come to them and say, yeah, I can talk.
It's somewhat about allowing people to be their whole selves, even at work.
Yeah.
Having the vulnerability, the transparency, the empathy
Right.
is incredibly important.
Right. Yeah. And I think in today's world, right, we talk a lot about mental health, physical health, the financial health of people. And I think so often we'll say, how are you doing? And everybody's immediate answer is like, I'm good.
Yep.
But to be able, to your point, to be vulnerable, to say, I'm not, like, I need help. And how can you, as my employer, help me?
Mhm.
And it's not always more money. I think everybody wants more money,
Yeah.
which is helpful. But there's so many more things that employers can do. And that's so much of that's driven by just phenomenal HR professionals. So
Absolutely. So you as a vendor, what's kind of one takeaway so far? I know we're just getting started. You've been here. I mean, the vendor hall opened about 3 minutes ago. Do you have any takeaways so far?
No, just a lot of energy. I've been to these before. I just think that exhibitor hall starts to bring a lot of energy. There's a lot of great networking events this evening. And I think it's just a way for, again, a very stressful role to come learn some meaningful things to take back. But everybody likes to have fun here.
Everybody does love to have fun at the Ohio HR
Yes.
conference. All right, this
Awesome.
is the last
Okay.
question, and I'll let you get back to your booth. How would you describe someone who does HR like a boss?
Wow, someone that is really a caring human, that really takes the time to invest in their people, in their workforce, and I think is advocating for that workforce with the rest of the C-suite, with ownership, just going to bat for them, and someone that you always know as an employee, someone that has your back no matter what, that they've got you. So I think that's kind of how I describe it. So
Wonderful.
cool.
Thank you so much for being
Great
on
to
the
see you
show.
again.
Great to see
Thank
you.
you.
Yes.
Yes. And I hope
Thank you.
John feels better. I think he's out
Yes.
sick today, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Unfortunately, he is. But if anyone else would like to come be on the live show, we encourage you to come. Thank you.
Yeah,
Tell your
I will.
friends.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, we are here live at the Ohio HR conference. HR Like a Boss is here doing the live stream of the podcast. If people want to come, we have 4 simple questions to ask you. We'll have a little bit of a fun conversation, and we will get you on your way into the vendor hall to have fun and talk to all the amazing sponsors who help put on this amazing event. So, would you like to be on the podcast? Awesome. Thank you.
Live?
Yes, it is live.
All right. Hi, everybody.
Hi, I'm Bridget.
Hi, Bridget. Andrew.
Nice to meet you, Andrew. Now, I'm guessing based on your shirt, you're part of the vendor hall?
Yes.
All
I'm
right.
an exhibitor.
Yes. Would you like to tell us a little bit about who you're exhibiting for?
Sure.
And then we'll get into a little bit about you.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Andrew Kempton. I'm an employee benefits consultant with Gallagher out of Cleveland, Ohio. I help businesses maintain their employee benefits packages and create one that is attracting talent, retaining talent, all those buzzwords that you can think of. Yeah, so here,
Awesome.
shaking hands with all the HR community.
Yes. Thank you. Do you want to share a little bit about your background and how you ended up at Ohio HR Conference today?
Sure. Yeah. So this is my second year here. I think last year was the first one after COVID.
Yes. I think so.
So last year was awesome. Expecting big things this year. I know it's off to a hot start. So my role coming into HR, I've been in the industry more or less for 5 years, and kind of just one day at a time,
Yeah.
really, just like all of us. It's definitely evolved over the past couple of years, and continues to. So it's exciting, and I don't see myself ever leaving.
Awesome. So then on that note, how do you describe the purpose of human resources?
I think the purpose of human resources is the first word, human. It's the person. It's I think oftentimes we associate it with being part of a business, and which it is, but I think there's a big aspect of it where we have to focus on people as people first, and then profits. So people and profits, more buzzwords, more. Is that a camera?
It is a camera.
I keep looking.
Do you look at the person you're talking to?
Sorry, totally lost.
The person, or more than the business, but it's a person.
Yes, and I think that itself is evolving, and we've seen it happen in the past couple of years of just just different topics that we're talking about on a daily basis. So yeah.
Now, okay, tell me a little bit more about the benefit.
Yes, so the Benefits Bakery is kind of our little this year about there's so many ingredients that can go into a great benefits package. We're kind of just building that cake that's meant for the right customer. So we like to go in with an approach that's relatively open-minded, and we're not going to bring in products or services that just that might win us the business, but we're not into that. We're into what makes the most sense for the group. So the Benefits Bakery portion of it is just all sorts of aspects of the human, not just looking at the insurance products that most of us do, the fringe benefits, lifestyle benefits, those are becoming big. So so that's kind of the recipe.
Awesome.
We're looking for the perfect family recipe.
The perfect family recipe. Awesome. All right, last question. How do you describe someone who does HR like a boss?
HR like a boss. How would I describe someone? I would say it's someone that is at this conference.
Yes.
Probably most of the people here. It's tough because I think HR within itself it's people motivated. So it really depends on the culture, what makes them a boss, and they themselves know what makes them a boss within their own company.
Yeah.
So I think it's the eye within the beholder. I don't know if that's a good answer.
All right, we are trying to get a text message out to the whole group to make sure that people come be on our show. I think Robert's going to come on it next. But we're still finishing up with Andrew.
How many people have you had?
3 so far. We just started at 5, so
Okay.
we're just getting going. So one of the big things is if you could tell and encourage more people to come out and see us, that would be fantastic.
For sure. Someone with more than 5 years experience.
There are people in here with 1 to, probably 20, 25 years of experience. I think that's kind of the exciting thing. You were kind of saying, like, this is your second one. It's exciting to have such a wide variety of roles in the room.
100%. And you can kind of see how it's, well, at least last year to this year. I know I
Okay.
have a small sample size. But you can just kind of see how there's just more excitement. I don't know if I didn't even know that was possible after last year.
Yeah.
But there's just the charisma or something. Like it's it's a community.
Yes.
So
Yes. And there's something special about Kalahari. I will say.
absolutely. Yeah, I think pre-COVID or
Yep.
3 of them ago,
Yep.
it was not here, and they
Yep.
brought it back.
Yep.
So I know that was very exciting for many.
Absolutely.
So I just
Yeah. You're like, I gotta go. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Appreciate it.
Of course. Bridget, yes. Nice to meet you. Thank you. Hey, do you want to be on the podcast? Yeah. Do you have 3 minutes? 4 quick questions. Yep. Thank you.
That's the first for
me. You did great.
Thank you.
Okay. Totally understand. Do you guys want to be on the podcast? Get some people a little close. Come on over, be on the podcast. It's really 4 quick questions. I know. Yeah. Right. I think Tom's trying, but yeah. Awesome. Tom, I hear you're watching. Thank you for being on the show. Hey, do you want to be on the podcast? Okay. Okay. Hi, do you want to be on the podcast? It's 4 quick questions. Sure. Awesome. Thank you. Hi, I'm Bridget.
I'm Stephanie.
Nice to meet you,
Nice to
Stephanie.
meet you.
So would you tell the HR Like a Boss community a little bit about you and what brought you to Ohio HR Conference today?
Sure. I am an associate HR manager for Nestle Purina. I'm working at a new startup that we're building about 30 miles outside of Cincinnati. Been with the company for about 3 years, but this role for about a year. So since it's a startup, we don't have people yet. It's really fun for HR. Weird. But so getting to use this time, my manager is super big on development. So let me come here to learn all of the good things, all of the not good things, but all the good things hopefully to bring back.
So what sessions have you been to today?
I just got out of the performance review one, which was super fun. Did the mental well-being one, the one that I got a book on.
Ooh, we love books here at HR Like a Boss.
Relationships at work.
Awesome.
And then one other one that is just escaping my brain right now. So that must have been the best one.
That clearly was the best one.
It was before lunch.
All right. So how do you describe the purpose of human resources?
I would say it's balancing advocating for employees and companies and getting them both speaking the same language.
That can be incredibly hard sometimes.
Yeah, it's way harder.
It's you not only are you balancing different demographics, sociographics, but also then different kind of purposes and needs and all that. Awesome. So you kind of mentioned some of the sessions you've been to so far. What's your one takeaway so far?
All HR people are still learning. We're all works in process, and we all have the same. People are people everywhere.
Yep,
So
people.
I think that's very comforting.
I think those are two amazing takeaways. The idea that we're always still learning is incredibly important. All right. And then last question. So this is the HR Like a Boss podcast. I am not the regular host. John is out sick today, but it is based on this idea of HR or someone doing HR like a boss. So how would you describe someone who does HR like a boss?
They just own it. They're unapologetic and they know what they know and they're not afraid to say it nicely but confidently.
Have you read the book? Because
No.
that was
but I've worked with someone who was very much so
Oh,
sorry, a boss. So.
Awesome. Well, I will just say, because you gave me that opening, there are two main tenets of the book. Someone who does HR like a boss owns it and is passionate about what they do. So you hit that on
There you
the
go.
head.
I actually wrote the book.
You-
No, I'm kidding.
I mean, we have no proof right now that John is a
That's
real
true.
person.
It could be was it ghostwriter?
A ghostwriter.
Could have been. You caught me at the right
You
time,
got
man. You don't know what you just
We
got.
don't know what. Wonderful. Well, that is all the questions. But is there anything else you want to share with the HR Like a Boss community?
No, I didn't know it existed.
Yes.
So I'm gonna look at the podcast now.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Good luck. And if you want
Thanks.
to tell anyone to come be on the show,
No
please
time.
do.
See you.
Yes. Thank you. Just tonight. And there's a postcard with a little bit more information about HR Like a Boss if you want to grab that, or a pin or a button. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Lots of
thank
information.
you.
Thank you. Do you want to be on the podcast? 4 easy questions. That's okay. Yes. It's an opportunity to get out of your shell, talk a little bit about yourself, and, share what makes HR an amazing community to work in. Okay. Do you want to be on the podcast? Yes. HR, human resources. Well, let's just talking about yourself. Well, you know enough. You got No, they won't. No. It's fun, it's easy. Yeah. It'll be fun and easy. I promise. I've got a few. Come on, I'll make it out. We'll just have a conversation. Don't. It's live. And we're having a conversation. No. They can see me though. Okay. They can hear me. Come on over. You're fine. I won't ask you any tough questions. With the lights I can barely see. The Willery's YouTube channel. Yes, for people who are watching, this is sponsored by Willery, a professional services firm dedicated to HR and payroll. We focus on making sure your organization has the right people and the right technology to really make it efficient and have an amazing time and empower your people. All right, come on. It's going to be a life, it's going to be a fun life moment. You'll be able to tell people you were on a podcast and all right. Hi, I'm Bridget.
I'm Rose.
Nice to meet you, Rose.
Nice to meet you.
All right. Well, you mentioned that it'll be 2 years in November for your HR career.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit how you got into HR and what made you join HR.
So I got my degree, my bachelor's degree in human resources back in 2017. And at first I thought I was going to go straight into HR, but everyone's like, you have to have a lot of experience at the time. And so I was really just looking for someone to teach me everything. So I went into the staffing industry for a little bit, thought I can get my feet wet there. And then my client was QQE, we're a manufacturing company, manufacture quartz. And I would meet with the HR manager on a weekly basis. And one day she was like, I'm looking for an HR generalist. And I was like, oh, I got my degree. I just need someone to teach me. So it kind of worked out that way. I always knew I wanted to go into HR because I like helping people. And I have a very fun, bubbly personality. And, years ago, people saw HR as like, stick in a mug, straightforward like this. And I thought I could be that person to kind of help redefine that.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's almost as if she's read the book, HR Like a Boss, which is based on the two tenets of own everything you can and have a passionate desire for the people, for the, what you're doing. All right, you kind of jumped into the second question already, but
Talk a lot.
oh no, I do too. I totally understand. That's why I'm the backup podcaster. So how do you describe the purpose of human resources?
Well, I guess me and my boss kind of touched on this a little bit. It used to be so straightforward. It's for me, at least, the way I used to perceive HR. The reason why I said I wanted to be different is because it was kind of like a black and white. You go to them, you have this issue. This is what your answer is. You either like it or you don't. Now, the purpose to me more is like helping people and guiding them, because I'm so much more than just, oh, I need help with the handbook. I could be changing someone's personal life. Sometimes people do have mental health issues, things that's going on. So it's kind of like redefining the purpose a little bit as to we're not just straight to the textbook, we're actually overall lifestyle. If that answered your question.
100% it did. All right. So what's one takeaway you've had from the conference so far?
Ooh, honestly, this is the first conference I've been to in a while where each session is like really good. So let me see. So far, the biggest takeaway, it's not necessarily anything that anyone has said. It's more so just a takeaway of being here and seeing so many people in the same predicament as me. Sometimes I fall so short and I'm like looking at my desk, looking at everything going on. I have so much recruiting. I have so much to follow up with. The market is how the market is. So the biggest thing right now, I like the we are a family theme. I feel like it's perfect for this current time because that's what we need right now. I need another resource. So biggest takeaway for me is knowing, I have now other people where I have a support system.
Yes, I think that's one of the amazing things about conferences like this is sometimes you're one of 100, you're two of 200, however it is. And then when you get in a room, these are people that really can empathize with your struggles, with the fact that your desk has 4,000 things you needed to do today. And that's so incredibly important to have that camaraderie and that community around what you do. All right. So the podcast is called HR Like a Boss. The book is coming out October 24th. So how would you describe someone who does HR like a boss?
It's kind of like what the CEO touched on earlier. It's that courage, it's the confidence. I feel like HR like a boss is not like, well, maybe I think. It's kind of like, you know what? I don't know. Let me look into it. And it's that confidence and being able to research things, think strategically. To be a HR boss, you can't be closed-minded. You have to be open-minded. So that's how I kind of define it.
Wonderful. See, I feel as if through these conversations, we're just really learning that the HR community as a whole
Mhm.
is going through this transformation from, like you said, the black and the white, the rules,
Yep.
the handbook, this is all we do, the party planners, to
Yeah.
the strategic, let's work in the gray, let's really make a difference for our people.
Exactly. Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rose. Thank you for
Thank you.
taking the chance, being courageous,
Yes.
and joining us on the HR Like a Boss podcast.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thank you. Okay. All right, we can do that. All right, we are going to take a break, and I am going to go drum up some people from the vendor hall and get them to the HR Like a Boss podcast. Hello, we are back live at the Ohio HR Conference. This is the HR Like a Boss live recording of the podcast. I am Bridget Klein. I am not John Bernatovich, but I am here, and I am here now with Venechia.
Yes,
This awesome,
absolutely.
yes. And she was wonderful support she was more or emotional support as we were putting everything up.
I tried to help.
You did. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your background and how you got into HR?
Yeah. So I started in HR about I would say 10 years ago. I went to school for engineering and moved here from South Africa. Got into HR as an HR admin assistant or HR coordinator, if you will.
Mhm.
And then kind of just worked my way up to the head of human resources now for a medical device company in Cleveland, Ohio. And so it's been 10 years of very on the job training. So, yeah,
Now, okay, did anything in engineering prepare you for human resources?
not at all.
At all.
I will say from a analytical, logical, technical aspect, it helps sometimes because I feel like there's a lot of, and rightfully so, a lot of emotion that goes into HR, right? And sometimes you need the perspective of the analytical, logical,
Yes.
methodical reasoning.
Absolutely. All right. So, how do you describe the purpose of human resources?
Crucial.
Crucial.
Yeah, I think it is important. People are important, right? And I feel like it's always going to be something that evolves. So in any environment, organization, having HR at the front and center is super important, crucial, and
Yep.
it really helps navigate a lot of ebbs and flows.
Yes.
And helps calm, obviously, but for the most part, I think it is also a very ever evolving learning environment.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the theme of HR is always adapt, evolve, and then overcome, right? Because half the time you're trying to, fan out like 11 fires,
Yep.
and you have to be able to adapt to all of those things and meet everyone's needs at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's really poignant. Adapt, evolve, overcome.
Mhm.
Amazing. All right. So, what has been one takeaway from the conference so far?
I think the biggest one for me is that I think the theme, or at least the breakouts that I've attended, is that our managers have a lack of training and they're not very well equipped.
Yeah.
And I also think that there's every time I've been to a couple of conferences, every time I come to a conference is a new theme or a new crisis that all HR folks are trying to overcome. And it's very enlightening to see the different contrasts of what people experience, especially in those
Yep.
breakouts, and what each individual HR leader or HR person deals with. And then I sit back and I go, I'm really grateful for my job, right? So it brings a new perspective
Yes.
every single time.
That's really important. I think you kind of touched on something we're hearing a little bit today is
Yeah.
that it's really good to be in a room of HR professionals and who know what you're going through. But then
Yes.
you mentioned, there's so many different types of HR.
Right.
There's then you have HR departments of one, or you have HR departments of many. And so everyone can kind of learn and collaborate together at an event like this.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there is HR professionals, at least there's these, conferences that we have. I don't think I've ever seen a manager go to a manager conference, just a
Right?
random
Just a
manager
manager conference.
I think if we had more like this in other departments, this would be so much more beneficial,
Right?
and it would help HR so much more.
Yes, that would be amazing. All right. So last question. How would you describe someone who does HR like a boss?
Collaboratively.
Collaboratively. you might be the second person. No, Crucial is the other one.
Yeah.
That yes, amazing.
Yeah, because I think HR is like I said before, learning, right? And involving everyone in that collaboration of learning and being able to empathize and be open and honest about everyone's struggles helps you be a better HR
Yep.
leader, right? It helps kind of peel away at whatever challenges your leadership is having or employees are
Yeah.
having and really what's at the core of some of the struggles and trying to help overcome some of them.
Yes, that makes complete sense. Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being on the podcast and the
Yeah.
live stream.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to share with?
No, I mean, it's a great conference, great. Thank you for taking the time to
Of
talk
course.
to everyone and get everyone's perspective. And I think I'm looking forward to the rest of it.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you so much,
Thank you.
Venechia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
How are you?
good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right. Well, do you want to introduce yourself
Yes.
and tell us a little, tell the HR Like a Boss community about your background?
Yeah, so I'm Tonisha Ausler. I am fairly new to the HR world. I have my master's in HR, and I have finally gained a position in the field that I'm happy with, that I'm learning more. So I can say I'm fairly new, but I'm learning a lot. And I'm very excited to show what I know.
Wonderful. What made, and this is not on the list, so
Mhm.
sorry, I'm going off
That's okay.
script, but what made you get into human resources?
So initially, I was an English background, English and communications, and I was thinking of something that aligned with that, but also I can make an impact with.
Mhm.
So I was talking to my advisor one day at school. I went to Cleveland State University, and she was like, "Well, I think you will be great for this field." And I started reading up on it, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'll be a great fit.
Yep.
So let's have at it.
Wonderful. I think it's really important what you said is make an impact.
Mhm.
That is one of the core pieces of HR Like a Boss, but it's
Mhm.
also why I think people are here at the
Mhm.
conference is how can they learn to make a bigger impact on the business and the community and their
Absolutely.
employees?
Absolutely.
So how do you describe the purpose of human resources?
I think the purpose of human resources, from what I've learned, is I think of it as like a train. Like, we are the middle of that train, the center of the company. We keep everything running. And a lot of people don't know the big role that HR has within the company, but it's a big role. Like, we keep everything moving. We're like the gear that keeps everything going and perfectly circled. So I think that's how I would describe HR.
Awesome. That's awesome. All right. What is one takeaway you have from the conference so far?
I think one takeaway that I have will be to, if I ever get into a position of management, is to empathize with my employees, make sure I'm communicating with them, and also to make sure that I'm continue to learn, continue to grow, and not being afraid to ask for help.
That's so important. I think empathizing with people and not being afraid to ask for help, you've got to have both of those as an HR
Exactly.
person.
Absolutely. Especially to do your job well.
Yes. All right. Speaking of someone doing their HR job well, how would you describe someone who does HR like a boss?
I would say someone who does HR like a boss is not only someone who's leading, but also someone who's learning, who's not afraid to say, "Hey, I know I'm, your manager, but I don't know how to do this. Can you help me?" Like, you're owning it. You're owning that you don't know, but you're also owning that you can still be a leader and not know. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think that humility is really important.
absolutely,
Really
absolutely get you very far, especially in a leadership role. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the
welcome. Thank you
podcast.
for having me,
Of
guys.
course.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, you have a great rest of
You
your day.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. HR people are incredibly well spoken. Lizzie, our producer, just said that. So it's you have to learn how to communicate effectively, know your audience. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. I tried. Well, I will do a quick shout out for Willery. We are one of the sponsors of the Ohio HR Conference here at Kalahari. We also are the sponsors, the founders, etc., of HR Like a Boss. And Willery is a professional services firm dedicated to HR and payroll. We really focus in on people. So what that means is ensuring that organizations have the people on their staff to get the HR and payroll jobs done, whether that's temporary, contract, interim. I know those all can mean a little bit of the same. They're kind of different at times as well. And then also the technology piece of this. So we work exclusively with or not exclusively, my mistake. We are certified partners of ADP and UKG. So we are able to optimize and streamline and stabilize that and implement that technology. And we are also vendor agnostic when it comes to our vendor selections. Oh, okay. And really our intention when it comes to the technology side is to make human resources and payroll more streamlined and effective. And that could mean different things for different organizations. Sometimes that means an organization needs more process to really make their technology work. Gina's going to come be on our show.
Hey.
You came over. Hello.
Hi.
All right, we have Gina on the show. She is the co-chair,
Vice chair. Someone said I was going to be the president, so I might just take that title and set the queen of Ohio HR conference.
Absolutely.
Yeah, own it.
Own it.
Okay.
I think I said earlier I was the queen of HR like a boss. So it works.
Like a chess match.
We're all just moving our little pieces around, seeing who's gonna get into check first.
Yeah. So how's it been?
Good.
Interview you.
How's
Hershorin been?
It's good. We are having fun talking to people. It's a great opportunity to meet with other HR people. As Lizzie said earlier, HR people are so incredibly well spoken. They come on, they're like, oh, I don't want to be on a podcast. It's scary. It's easy. It's fun. And they have had some of the most amazing answers.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check it out.
Yes.
Cool.
All right. Now I'm going to interview you.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you you ask me a question. I'll ask you a question.
Okay.
Okay. So, why don't you you're the queen of Ohio HR Conference. Beyond that, self-titled. What's your day-to-day?
So first and foremost, our theme is we are family. So first and foremost, I'm a new mom. I had my daughter last year. I did not attend. She was an itty bitty little bean. So I was at home with her and I missed all of you guys last year. But I'm a senior HR representative at DHL Supply Chain, headquarters for the North America, division. I support our corporate functions. So, everyone from the, C-suite to, hourly staff. It's been, a really wide jump from what I had done. I had been really small companies, really blue collar, similar kind of industries. But ultimately, like the last company I worked at had like 180 people when I started. When I left, they had over 200. And now I have, 701 buildings. So it's been a little bit of a stretch. But yeah, I got into HR, kind of like figured it out, and now I can't imagine doing anything else. So that's been awesome.
How's that balance between new motherhood and
it is a teeter-totter. It's one of those things where, having a team and a leader that supports you and also values those things is really important. My boss and, our executive team has been really supportive of, hey, We have a fever. We are out of daycare for 24 hours. I'll be working from home today. But yeah, I think that's been really incredible. And, even my committee family, like I was in labor still sending emails because I'm, that crazy person. But, they're like, hey, we haven't heard from you for a minute. Are you having a baby? So I think that, the network you surround yourself with and having those shared values is really what helps with that balance for sure.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
You want to ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are some trends that you guys have picked up in your interviews?
Ooh. Okay, so the number one thing is I think people have really enjoyed Johnny C. Taylor.
Okay. He is
His
a who. I've never seen that side of him.
Okay, I have never actually seen him present
Okay.
because either I'm in a vendor hall when he's presenting.
Sure.
There was when he was going to be presenting at the Northern Ohio HR conference
He referenced that today.
on March
That was
14th, 2020.
yeah.
13th, whatever that
Yeah.
date was. So I didn't see that one. Let's see what else.
Yeah.
I just keep missing him by a little bit.
Yeah.
But his talk on being courageous,
Yeah.
people really seem to resonate with that.
hmm
And then the idea that HR is collaborative and it's crucial.
Yeah.
So those are some of the
Some
trends we're
3
seeing.
C's.
Yes.
Three
Courageous,
Cs.
collaborative, and crucial.
Yeah.
You're gonna rewrite the book with those.
Yeah.
I really just hope that John is watching every time I say things like that.
The 3 C's of HR coming to you by Bridget and Gina this fall. Awesome. Okay.
Okay.
Well, your turn.
All right. So what's one takeaway you've seen from the conference so far?
Oh, I think I've really seen an increase in networking.
Ooh.
I think that, and again, this is our kind of like first full year back, kind of like the show and knowing what's going on. Last year was our first year back here at Kalahari.
Mhm.
It's kind of that first year after like the weird wave that we've been
Yes.
riding. So I think I've really seen an increase in networking. I think people really took Jason's kind of opening sentiments to heart and having your HR family around because, joining the committee, joining, this group, like I've had incredible relationships that have
Mhm.
formed. I found mentors. I found opportunities that maybe wouldn't have come as organically had I not put myself out there in those, awkward networking, like, hey, do you care if I sit with you? Like,
Yes.
those things really do come
Those-
into really beautiful opportunities and
Yeah.
really beautiful friendships.
It really, I think you're so dead on that one of the biggest things that we can do in these situations is get out of our comfort zone, maybe
Yeah.
do a podcast, a live stream podcast, or, meet a new friend, make a new friend
Yeah.
because we're all like, some people come with a group, but not everyone knows a lot of people and everyone's kind
Yeah.
of in that position and
Yeah.
everyone is really open to connecting.
I'm gonna give a shout out. So my first year, I came kind of like solo. My aunt's in HR. She always came to Ohio Sherm, and I always hear about it. I'm like, one day I'm gonna go. So my first year I came, she didn't come.
Of course.
So
not.
I'm,
What?
on Thursday night social, like being a little bit of a wallflower, and I kind of like walked up to her.
Yeah.
I was like, "Do you care if I sit with you?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure." And I introduced myself, and she said her name was Valerie. I was like, "Oh my God, that's my aunt's name. My name's Gina." She's like, "That's my sister's name."
Oh
And
my
it was like one of the
gosh.
I found her in the hallway today and she gave me the biggest hug and she was like, "How's your baby?" Like we know each other. Like
Yes.
even if we don't see each other outside of, I like to call this like summer camp.
Mhm.
We check in, we follow each other
Yes.
on our socials. LinkedIn is a really great tool.
Yep.
And like again, when you see each other, it's like no time left.
Yes.
So network is my key
Yes.
takeaway.
Network, network, network.
Okay. What are you guys most looking forward to into like next year for Willery and like HR? What are you
Mm.
guys working on?
Well, so the book comes out October 24th.
Subtle
HR Like a
plug.
Boss. Subtle plug there. For I
And
think
you're doing a bookmark signing for in
I
John's
might be
absence,
I think I've heard I'm signing some bookmarks. I did design the cover and this, so at least
Yeah.
there's some feel there that you're getting.
on behalf of John.
Yeah, certainly I'm saying, there'll be exclusive items. I think that we're really excited for 2024.
Yeah.
I think 2023 has been this very big pause for a lot of people, a lot of organizations. And I feel like sometimes people, up until very recently, have felt like they're in stasis.
Sure.
And I think we're really seeing that revving up opportunity of coming back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that. I'm excited
Yes.
too.
All right, last question.
Okay.
How would you describe someone who does HR like a boss?
Ooh. I think someone who does like HR like a boss, first of all, you have to think about your, your customer, who are you serving, and making sure that while you think about, the business, you also want to make sure that you're doing things for, both parties. And that's one of HR's things. But I think ultimately, kind of like Johnny talked about, being competent, you have to know what you're talking about, because the first time you don't is the minute you lose that credibility, which I think was one of our other 3 C's.
We're adding it.
There's a 4th C
There's
now.
now a fourth.
But yeah, I think someone who's a HR boss is courageous, they're credible, they are competent, and they own it, and they're there for their customer. And again, we might be, not a revenue generator. That's, my finance peeps like to remind me that. But I think it is one of those things of like, you know your business, you know your business partners, and you know the key stakeholders. So I think that's what HR like a boss is to me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for
Let's see what
Okay,
else
we
can I
got one
ask
more.
you. If John were here,
Mhm.
which HR family member would he be? Like, what family would he be a part of? Like
Like,
cartoon family,
ooh.
like TV sitcom family, something like that.
Okay, well, he would definitely be part of Lizzie's family because that's actually his. John is actually Lizzie, our producer's uncle.
Nice.
But ooh, what family? See, I feel like he would want to say, I don't know, Ted Lasso.
I could see him being
I could
Ted
see
Lasso.
Ted Lasso.
What about you? What family would you be in?
I would want to be on some like crazy fantasy, like young adult, like with powers that I could just be like, pew, pew, pew. That would be mine.
I decided if I had a superpower, I want a time machine, but only to go back in time to see like the rock greats, like in concert, like when they were at their
Yeah.
prime. Like I don't want to see, Def Leppard now or Kiss on their farewell
No,
tour.
you want to see them
Like
when they
yeah,
were-
when they were in their, like
Is-
that's my aspiration.
Is
right
that
now.
why the 2024 theme is kind of rock?
I don't
Okay.
want to get into it too much.
Okay,
You'll
you
hear
can't get
about it on
We'll
Friday.
hear about it on Friday, but I saw a logo and
Yeah.
it looked pretty awesome.
Yeah, it'll be a party. We're really hoping that you guys will be back to join
hope
us.
so, too.
Hope everyone who
Yes.
wasn't able to make it this time comes back. We'll be back here in Kalahari, September
Nice.
25th through the 27th. And I'll
Awesome.
be the queen of rock by
You'll
then.
be the queen of rock and HR
Yeah.
and Ohio Sure.
Yeah. I'm getting so many promotions. Thank you. Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you
Thanks
so
so much. Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Yes.
All right, bye
All
everyone.
right, bye. All right, Tammy or Megan, who's up? Okay. Hello, Megan. I feel like it's been a very long time since we've talked. When you were part of the original 13 for Disrupt HR Columbus,
Yes.
and then the world went.
Yeah, the
A little-
pandemic. Yeah.
Yes.
I think it was HR like a mom. Or no, it was something about
Something.
mom
Yes.
boss or something like that.
Yes. So
Yeah, good
thank you
memory.
so much for being on our podcast live stream.
My pleasure.
So I know you're heavily involved in Ohio Sure. I loved the idea that you were doing an introduction for new attendees to Ohio Sure. What was like one key takeaway that you had from giving that presentation?
Yeah, so last year I was the conference chair for our 50th anniversary. And for me, it was really like an aha moment of like, we had people that had come back to Kalahari or post-pandemic hadn't been. And I just kept hearing great things, or people that are like, oh, I've never been. I'm like, oh, you have to go. And then I thought, Jason, I need to do an orientation. And who better than me, who's like social butterfly, wants to connect everybody, very much about inclusive and belonging and just feeling like you have a place here.
Yeah.
And so I wanted people to get excited about it. And at first I was nervous because like it's new. There's all these wonderful speakers. Are they going to come? And then even Jason was like, I thought maybe you get 10 people. You had a packed house of 2 rooms, like 2 rooms full of people.
Why do you think there was so much interest?
I think sometimes it's just the hype, you put it out there, people know you, people talk about it. And I know that I can be fun and boisterous. So I think that's a lot of fun. But I also think it's like people do want to feel like when you make this investment in yourself or you're going to conference, you're like, how do I get the most out of it? And I love that about Ohio Sherm because it's all inclusive. Like it's not invite only. You're not trying to chase the party or chase the dinner or look for the best exhibitor event. Like you get to go to everything. And I think that was what was really cool. But at 8 a.m. we brought the energy. There were so many people, got them out of their seats to just say hi to new people that they'd never met before. And it's really about the networking in the end.
Yes. I know Gina was just saying how important that networking and that family really is to HR professionals.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go back to my scripted questions
No, you're
now.
great.
All right, so I know a little bit about you, but would you share with the HR Like a Boss community your background, how you got into HR?
Absolutely. So I did a variety of internships. I was originally in fine art and then I got into PR and I just fell into HR. Oddly enough, I have two sisters in HR as well, my older and younger sister. We all do it. So it must be in the blood. I'm pretty sure of it. I've been in HR 18 years. I'm the vice president of talent and culture for Beach Acres Parenting Center. That's been around for 175 years. It's my first nonprofit gig. I've always done the for-profit corporate side. I'm from Cincinnati originally. I've been on Cincy Sherm for 15 years. I've been a Sherm member for 14. I have my SCP, and then I've been on the conference committee for 7 years. So really just love the community, love to share with other professionals. But and Steve Brown is a dear friend and mentor of mine, and I dig it. It's who I am. It's what I do.
Yes. Well, I'm going to give a small plug for Steve and HR Like a Boss.
Yay!
He did write the foreword for the book. So if for no other reason, read the book for Steve's foreword. I don't think he mentions tie-dye in it at all.
That's a shame.
But I was a little disappointed.
That's not on brand like Steve.
There's not a picture. So, maybe we can talk that.
Yes.
All right. So how do you describe the purpose of human resources?
Yeah, I mean, we've evolved so much, right? When I first started, people still called me the personnel office. And I was like, ooh, I think we're really that glue to the organization to help collaborate between the business needs, the team member needs, and really being kind of that voice of reason of liaison between how things are, and then always making sure that we're finding that consistency, fairness, but also helping team members have a voice and feel comfortable to be themselves, valued and respected, and just belonging. That's always my number one. If team members, if nothing else they say, they're always like, you're fair, you're consistent, you always make me feel welcome and heard. I may not be able to give them a yes every day, but I'm going to give them a why, and I'm going to value them like a true person that they are.
I love that. And I think that's one of the key things that people really need to know is the importance of listening and listening to what the person's saying, not just listening to, oh my gosh, listening to respond. I forgot the response.
Absolutely.
So
we teach that at Beach Acres. So mindfulness is a big practice. We're in the social services, human services, mental health space, and parenting education. And so we teach about your strengths. We teach about mindfulness. And it's in all of us. All the strengths live within us. We just have to pull some up, pull some down. I am obviously not great at the active listening all the time. My team always laughs. I'm like but it's the number one lowest strength for Americans is self-control, strength of self-control. So I have to pull it up to be the last one to talk and to really hear my team. But it's just about mindfulness and being fully present in the moment. And we're also busy as multitaskers. We have a lot on our plates. But when you take intentionality and you're mindfully present for your team or the person that's with you and you're listening to them, you become such a better listener.
That is so amazing. Thank you. All right. Well, I still have two questions.
Okay.
We're having a great conversation. What is one takeaway from the conference so far that you have?
Yeah, so it's really smooth this year. I'm loving. As past chair, I always say I get to shake hands and kiss babies.
Yes.
Like it's amazing. But my takeaway is just seeing all the joyfulness, all the connections. Like we have almost 750 people this year, which is amazing. And I think it's just knowing that people in HR really need that safe person. And Jason said it so great on stage was like, you can't go to your tax accountant in the office and share, can I tell you about this harassment issue? You can't do that. You don't have a lot of spaces to share in. So connecting with people that you know is really just, it's value add. And then it's also a great time to recharge yourself as an HR professional.
That I think that is so true. And, again, we're like some of the themes we're picking up is how important events like this are for HR professionals. Sometimes you're the only person and open and have that confidence in the competencies of the people around.
Absolutely. And share the same walks of life. You know, we've all have stories. We could all write books for days, right? And so being able to share those stories and collaborate on things that you can't share within your organization so you can be a confidant is so important.
Wonderful. Last question.
Okay.
How do you describe someone who does HR like a boss?
Oh, wow. So I would say that you are true to yourself, but you also have great self-awareness of like what are the challenges that a team member might have in connecting with me, and you're able to mold your style. You're not just like this is who you're going to get, because I always jokingly say to my team members, I don't come and show up to a termination like Megan, like, hey, here we go.
Yes.
You know, you have to be able to be moldable and still show up authentically, but also be, you know, clear about education, knowing the changes that are coming down the path, being able to strategically be at the table and challenge thought partnership, but be respectful as well as a confidant, and really just understanding how you have an integral role in the business. And every business starts and ends with your people.
Yep.
I don't care what your CEO says, that's really what it is. And so you have to be able to embrace that and really help advocate for that.
Absolutely. I know one of the key pieces of why John wrote the HR Like a Boss book was how important human resources is. People are your number one resource, your number one asset, your number one everything. And if you are not paying attention to your people, then your business will fail, and someone else will pay attention to your people, and they will recruit them away, and then where will you be?
And it's paramount, especially post-pandemic. The game has changed. What people want, what they value, it's no longer just the paycheck. It's the hybrid work, it's the remote work, it's the, you know, casual work environment, it's the respect, it's the mental well-being, it's all the things. And it's been there, but it's even more apparent today. And, you know, at the end of the day, if you want to retain great talent, you have to be changing the game as leaders. We are no longer in a world where people can just be turned over and, oh, there's going to be an endless supply of talent that wants to come work for me. No, it's not going to happen.
It's not. All right. Thank you so much.
It was such a pleasure.
It was great to see you again, or actually see you in person for the first time, I think.
Thank you.
Well, yes, thank you. Thanks. Ooh. All right, come on. It is.
You know what? I'm leaving. They're just gonna.
Yes. Awesome. I love it. We love a good, enthusiastic swag wearing opportunity.
Yes.
Oh, I did not recognize you behind the glass. There we go. the glass. Wow. Those little toucan frames change your,
I
like,
called him a pelican at first. And
it's
the
okay.
guy kind of looked at me. He's like, I'm sorry, it's a toucan. It's not a pelican. And he was like, it's okay, it's a bird. I was like, it's a bird with a big beak.
You know, my daughter asked me yesterday if the reason that parrots are parrots is because they have to do with pirates. And I was like, I don't think so, but I've never thought of it that way. So, all right. Hi, Billy. Thank you for joining. All right. So, sorry. Nope. Put them back on. Put them back on. I had to like think through everything. All right.
Because HR has to kind of break the mold a little bit.
HR
This is what I'm doing.
It has to break the mold, has to meet the people where they
Yes.
are. And where people are today is having fun in a community of HR professionals. All right. So first question, can you introduce yourself to the HR Like a Boss community?
Absolutely. So my name is Billy Battle. I am an HR manager. I have booked my HR certifications, and I've been practicing HR since 2017. And like probably 98% of other HR professionals, I fell into HR. And it was really to stay away from a statistics class that I did not want to have to take. So I was like, I'll just go into HR. I love training people. I, enjoy interacting with people. And then going into HR, I found that my passion is really more policy and procedure. And from a prior consulting background, like really just kind of walking managers, CEOs through all of the many rabbit holes that HR seems to pop out of the ground.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So how do you describe the purpose of human resources?
So for me personally, it really is customer service.
Yep.
First and foremost, one of my first HR roles, the person that I had taken over for, no one liked going to HR because they dealt with that person first. And coming from a customer service background, my philosophy was different kind of customer, but I want them to feel welcome.
Yeah.
So, I think HR, a lot of employees think that it's, well, you're there for me.
Yeah.
Yes and no. We're there for the organization as a whole, and that includes the managers, that includes CEO, that includes the employees. So the purpose of HR really is to bring everyone together, I think.
Love that. All right. So I notice you have a lot of ribbons.
Yes.
You
Like my ribbons.
You like your ribbons. All right. Awesome. But aside from your ribbons, what's like one of your
my
biggest
glasses.
and your glasses and the lei?
And the lei.
You're just all decked out.
I am.
All right. But what is one of your biggest takeaways from the conference so far?
There's so many, but really, and this is going to tie into my answer for the last question.
Yes, we love it.
But it's the whole we are family, even from the opening session this morning to Christy's session. It's just meeting people where they are. There's a gentleman, John Baldino. He did a session on forgiveness, and it's not what a lot of people think forgiveness is. It's understanding that you could have that annoying employee that every time you see their name pop up, you're just, what do they need? Or they ask a question and then 5 minutes later, like, well, what if I do this instead? But understanding that you're just seeing one side of them and they're a 4-dimensional person. So, they have stuff going on at home, they have stuff going on in their head, and just kind of getting more of that empathetic, like general understanding. And then, one of my ribbon says policy, not politics. And that's big too, because, in the world today, everything is politicized, like everything, teaching, where you go to restaurants, it's just everyone's kind of pitted against each other. And HR and really the organization kind of has to be, okay, well, this is the policy. Regardless of whether, you agree with it, regardless of what side, the political aisle you're on, it's policy. It's not politics. So you kind of take away that anger side of it, because politics angers everybody. And it's just black and white, this is what it is. So just kind of reinforcing that and maybe getting a fresh perspective. But one of the things I love about coming to these conferences is, last year was my first session coming, and I made a whole lot of new connections. Well, I may have talked to them a little bit on LinkedIn, but when we meet here again, it's like, oh my God, how have you been? Having people just come up to you and say, hey, like everyone compliments me on my shirt, says be a nice human. It's very simple, and so really just the camaraderie. I mean, the theme this year is perfect. We are family. We all struggle together in HR. And even HR professionals may have different political views, but we all understand that HR itself is the policy. So I would say that was my biggest takeaway. And I know that was a huge tangent.
I love it. I love a tangent. Yes.
Hi, John. It would have been nice if you were here. I was really looking forward to that, but that's okay. I don't take it personal.
I might. But joking, John. I'm sure he'll say something to that. All right. So one last question, unless you just want to hang out and keep talking,
Sure.
we can talk
I'm happy to chat.
We can talk all night. But how would you describe someone who does HR like a boss?
So not to be cliche, but Christy like really hit the nail on the head. Is you meet people where they are. And that goes not just for the employees, but for your leadership team as well. Understanding that CEOs are under a lot of pressure, understanding, that not only are they focused on the business, but really they're focused on the employees too. And I'm grateful enough to work with the company where our CEO is fully involved. If she hears that someone out in the field, is going through a traumatic situation, like what can we do about that? But so it's meeting people where they are. It's, like John Baldino said, it's that forgiveness aspect. It's really just listening as well. And then continuously evolving. Like HR is not the same as it was when I started in the workforce. It's not the same as it was. I've had family members that worked in HR for Kmart back in the 80s and 90s.
When there was a Kmart.
Right. And it's just changing. Even since I've been in the HR profession, it's changed. And we really need to evolve. It's
Yep.
never going to be, oh, well, this worked 10 years ago. I mean, really,
Mhm.
even in the past 3 years, everything has changed.
Yes.
So I think someone who does HR like a boss, they meet the employees, like everyone in the company where they are.
Mhm.
They're also that strategic voice that, they're willing to have the courage to walk up to their CEO and be like, that's not going to work.
That's not
Here's
gonna-
why. Obviously you can't just walk up in the middle of a meeting and say, that's a bad idea. You do a little bit of digging.
Yep.
But really just making sure that as much as we can be, we're on top of things and we can help the CEOs navigate the complexities of everything, recruiting, laws, all
Yep.
that fun stuff. So HR is not easy. I think every HR professional will agree with that. And doing HR like a boss is really just giving it your all. You have to be passionate about this. You can't go into HR and I know we all joke and say, well, you can't be a people person if you work in HR, but you really can't work in HR if you truly hate people, and you
Right.
don't want to be around anyone. Unless you work in HRIS, then maybe.
Which is an incredibly important and valuable part, like quasi part of HR.
Yes.
But is not maybe as
It's not always user friendly. Let's put it that way.
we
Yeah. So I mean, HR like a boss, it's not a one size fits all. You have to be true to yourself, be true to your employees, and also be true to your company.
Yes. I think that's really important. I love what you were talking about, like meeting people where they are. I think it's so important to know your audience.
Right.
Sometimes it's your employees, sometimes it's your CEO.
Absolutely.
It kind of ties into my favorite piece of all these different things of like, okay, so there's social style or not social styles. There's communication accommodation theory. It's code switching, and then know your audience. They're all very like similar of the things.
Right.
And like again, it's just knowing your audience as to where you're going to talk about code switching versus
Right. And it's, you can't really go in and talk to your frontline employees as you would your managers. Give them the same information, but you give to them a different way.
Yes.
Kind of the layman's terms. One of my first HR roles, I always got annoyed anytime I was told, hey, go create this flyer for whatever. And then I create it and it has the information, but it's kind of like that high level information. And so my boss would say, okay, you need to spell this out clearly. I'm like, well, how much clearer does $5 raffle need to be? And her response was, and I hate, backwards thinking, but it's, you have to imagine you're talking to third graders. Everything has to be clearly spelled out. Well, that's for your every employee. When you go to your CEOs, you need to have the facts, you need to have the details, you need to have the reasons behind it. If you were the CEO, I couldn't just come to you and say, yeah, we have to do this now. Because you're going to say, why? What's it going to cost? What's the impact going to be? And is this actually going to add any value?
Right.
So, and then again, you mentioned like communication styles. Some people are highly detailed. So they need bullet points, the list, the, resources, the facts, all that stuff. And there's some people that are big picture that just need the broad picture. You can
Broad
give them the
strokes.
details, but do it in a PDF attached to the email where they just get kind of the, hey, this is what we're doing. This is a quick why. Go forward.
I love an executive summary at the top.
Yes.
Bullet points. And then you have the lengthy notes after that.
And we were recently discussing that in my company. And one of the leadership team members was like, she's like, I'm big picture. She's like, I don't need all of the details. And I started laughing. And it's like, so you hate my emails, basically.
You hate
And she's
my
like,
emails.
I skim them. Because, for all of the average employees, we have a lot of people working in the field in my company, 40 different states. So they're not always clued into everything. So I'm like, okay, this is what you need to do. Click on this, do this. This is the why. By this date, I need this. And, there's people in the company that are like, I don't need all that.
They just need broad strokes.
Right.
All right. Well, we have a few more people.
Yes.
So if you want to come back later, we'll talk more.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Billy.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
Yes.
Good to see you again, too.
Maybe
Bye, John.
What is it? 7. Or we'll see. We'll.
Always.
Always. All right. Who's next? Awesome. Okay. I was gonna say, I thought you had already turned me down twice, 3 times. No, it's super fun and easy. Hi, I'm Bridget.
Hey, Adam. Nice to meet
Adam,
you.
nice to meet you. Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to take a picture so we can.
Record for posterity.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right, Adam, can you tell the HR Like a Boss community a little bit about yourself? What brings you here today?
Sure.
How you got into HR?
Yeah, so Adam Hershorin. I am currently working at Kroger as a senior HR generalist. Came to the conference today because, always passionate about continued learning, continued development, learning from other professionals. We're better outside of the national conference, obviously, than the Ohio conference. So I guess a little bit of background. Originally wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
And then, if we're being honest, found out how much teachers made. So said, okay, maybe not, but what is adjacent to teaching? And obviously the training and development of HR. So that was, I think, beginning of my sophomore year at University of Cincinnati. Made the jump over to HR. Absolutely loved it. Got my master's, and then just have been on the HR journey ever since. Done a little bit of everything in the HR realm.
All right. On that point, what is your favorite piece of HR?
I love employee facing. So right now being a generalist is fantastic. I've done recruiting, I've done, benefits, things like that. Being able to really see the change, see the positivity of, okay, you're given a promotion, you're giving a job offer, whatever it is, being able to be that force of positivity for the associate experience.
Wonderful. All right. So source of positivity,
Yep.
really important. How do you describe the purpose of human resources?
So, if I was going to give, we'll say the corporate answer, it would be, helping to lead the company's initiatives by supporting, the associates in what they do.
Yep.
If you're asking me, just like on a day-to-day, that force of positivity is there. But then as well, it's being that true partner. If you're a benefits person who's working behind the scenes, somebody's going to come and ask you a question. It's being a partner there. If you're on the front lines as a generalist, it's being a partner, understanding the business, being able to go and not only say, hey, you need to do HR tasks 1, 2, 3, but hey, we talked about Johnny last week. We want to promote him. Susie's been having a hard time. How's that going? And being in the mix with them.
Yeah, I think that partnership can be so important. Being in the mix. We were talking with Billy a little bit ago about like communicating and knowing where your audience is, and that, like you said, okay, so and so's Johnny, I think you said, was doing really well and he's getting promoted, but Susie unfortunately needs a little bit assistance. We need to look at where her strengths lie and align them a little better to the role at hand.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So this is a great conference.
Yes.
I think we're having a lot of fun here. What is one takeaway you have from the conference so far?
So one quote that has stuck with me is the decisions are going to happen regardless. Johnny Taylor was talking about, he got hate mail, for lack of a better term, for going to the Trump administration and what they were doing, and having Clinton or Bush at the conference, and decisions are going to happen regardless. We always talk about HR having a seat at the table. There is no higher table than the presidential administration. So that quote has stuck with me. But then one takeaway for me is for performance management. The form and the checklist is the end. And a lot of people start with the end in mind in a negative way of, okay, we got to do the checklist and back into that, versus the continuous performance management, the continuous coaching, real-time feedback. And I would say as a company, we're absolutely headed in that direction, but it's still always, okay, how can we be better? How can the goals be individualized and personalized versus, okay, CHRO says your goal is to help with turnover. Well, I work in benefits, and I don't. How do I affect that exactly?
Awesome. All right, last question.
Sure.
How would you describe someone who does HR like a boss?
So this is a selfish answer. I'm not going to say myself.
Oh, say yourself.
My
It's a
wife.
her shot.
Yeah,
Oh,
my wife.
Okay.
So she also works in HR.
Wonderful.
And again, she's done everything under the sun. A lot of people talk about, my spouse doesn't understand what I do, right? And they go home and they complain, the spouse, speak in English.
I don't know what my husband does, and he's been doing it for 3 years. So,
met my wife in HR through work, and just absolutely, if I have a question, hey, do you have materials on this, training on this? I mean, I would say she personifies HR like a boss.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
of course.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And thank you to Adam's wife for personifying HR like a boss. Okay. Awesome. All right, we have a very special guest. Oh, you have hair. You have a little. Yep.
Yep, got
I
it.
know my hair keeps getting on my chapstick. All right, we have Tammy Mueller,
Hi.
who is amazing, and I'm excited to see her again after probably been 3 years. The last
3 years.
time, and I know Johnny C. Taylor actually mentioned this. The last time I saw you in person was Northern Ohio HR Conference, March 12th,
Yeah.
2020.
Yes.
Johnny C. Taylor was supposed to speak there. We were supposed to unleash new branding, and that did not quite go as planned.
No.
Because sometimes things don't. So that was the last time I think
remember.
we saw each other in person.
That's true. I was thinking about that when he was talking about it today.
Yes. All right. So this is Tammy, and she's going to tell the HR Like a Boss community a little bit about herself, how she got into HR. And I don't know if she wants to just share one of the fun, exciting things that she's doing these days.
The fun, exciting things I'm doing these days?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. So I have been in HR, 26 years now. So I got started back when it was a personnel department. I was the personnel administrator doing payroll, and then just kind of grew. I was at a company for 26 years and got my degree. And just as they grew, they found the need to have an HR department, dedicated, because employee relations issues started coming up, because I think they had their finance guy doing HR. So, I was there for 26 years, and then I took a break from that and worked for an amazing consulting company doing various HCM projects and HR projects. And then the last few years, I've been working as HR operations manager, so supporting HR business partners and doing benefits, payroll, onboarding systems for a biotech company out in California.
That is so exciting. And so I think, again, I clearly know Tammy. I know a little bit about her background. I think what's really cool about your story is you've gotten to do a lot of different things. You started in this family organization that really supported your growth as well. Even if they did have some very interesting stories. If you want to hear some great stories, Tammy has a lot of them.
Right.
And I believe your brother worked with you there
Yeah.
too.
Yes,
And
yes.
so it was
A lot
a
of family there,
yes,
yeah.
a lot. It was a family affair in a lot of
When you're
ways.
there for 26 years, you make a lot of friends, a lot of family, a lot of crazy stories. I always told John I should write a book.
You should
But it
write
would
a
be
book.
about, things we can't make up in HR.
I encourage everyone to write a book. I do. I really encourage everyone to take the opportunity to write a book. From what I've seen, it really helps you kind of find your voice and find your why and know who you are. But then you got to do consulting, and now really in the HR operations space, you're supporting the supporters.
Yes. Yes. And I support the processes.
Yes.
And I am loving it. It's a perfect role for me. I have a team, and they're very young, and some of them don't even have HR. They didn't have HR experience, but they're on the team for their grit and their perseverance. And I'm always telling them what's nice is you can go this way in HR, or this, there's so many avenues in HR. It's not just hire, fire people, people think it's just so narrow. So if you like process and, different things, there's that piece of HR. So yeah.
Awesome. And I think it's really cool because you have a nationwide approach. You work for a company in California.
I
You're
do.
here today.
Yes, we have
You're-
an office in Zurich, and I'm
my
learning
goodness.
about a lot about Switzerland benefits, and
Ooh.
we're opening up a manufacturing facility in Utah. And it's just been new pieces of HR that I didn't have experience with before. So,
Awesome. All right. So here's one of the big questions. How do you describe the purpose of HR?
I think the purpose of HR first is to support employees in their growth, support them in what they need throughout their careers, but also balancing corporate goals and, being sure that they understand what are the corporate goals, understand your business, So you're supporting both. I know sometimes people think HR is all about the company, but it's a balance.
It's always a balance.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So what is one takeaway from this conference
Oh, wow.
so far? Other than talking to me.
Well, yes, catching up with the Willery team has been the best. But I attended, and I can't remember the speaker's name, but it was a session on teams and high performance teams. And, his key was you start with the end. A lot of people think you start by team building and building relationships and trust. No, you start with this common goal, the end, one mission, and then you work backwards towards the relationship. Because if people don't understand what the end goal is, then that's going to create problems in your team. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and some things I think I could practice with my team.
Awesome. Do you have any other team members here today, or
No,
just
no.
you?
South San Francisco is a long way away.
No, I will not be in that area soon. I'm flying into LA coming up. But all right. So how would you describe someone who does HR like a boss?
I think they know the business. They understand their business for sure. I think they're approachable. They coach, they mentor. I've had the privilege of, working for a lot of great people who do HR like a boss, some HR professionals and some that weren't, CEOs who knew the value of HR maybe. But I think that's how I would describe them.
All right, you mentioned someone who doesn't do HR like a boss. What stands out about people who don't?
Wow. I think they are too focused either on profit, the company, they don't maybe value that personal connection with employees, having empathy, and empathy doesn't mean just, giving them everything they want, but it's just, understanding those situations, being approachable. I think that, some people, if they fear HR calling them, that's a problem. You need to make sure that you're trustworthy and people come to you to have those conversations, say, well, what happened was, and then it goes in the book.
Yeah, then it goes in the book. Awesome. Thank you so much, Tammy.
Yes,
I know.
yes, thank
I'm
you.
sure we'll catch up through the next couple days
All
or
right.
the conference. But
Thank you.
thank you. Hello. We call them guests on the podcast.
Yes.
Hi, Tony. I'm Bridget.
Hi, Bridget.
Nice to meet
Tony
you.
Fiore. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. All right. So, will you tell the HR Like a Boss community a little bit about yourself, how you got into HR, what you love about it, whatever kind of your HR background?
Sure. I got into HR about 23 years ago. I know. I was just like 5 when I did that.
A teeny tiny baby.
Yes. I got into it through the workers' comp system and actually lobbying for the Ohio Chamber of Commerce for a decade. And I started joining SHRM at that point and getting involved in, I love the people. I migrated into doing a lot of legal counseling and serving as a volunteer leader on the SHRM board as their director of government affairs.
Wonderful. All right. So, how does having a legal background impact your HR brain?
Well, that's a really good question because everyone is structured into this. You've got to comply with these laws. And I try to break that. You still, yes, you have to comply, but you also want to think about the future. How should the law interact if it doesn't work for management and the employees? So that's the lobbyist HR side of it, that I think everyone gets kind of structured into, oh no, I've got to comply with this law, which you do, until we advocate to change the law to make it better for everyone.
So I'm going really off script here because I'm fascinated. What do you think is the most effective way of lobbying and helping impact the future through legal changes?
It's really simple. And the Ohio SHRM State Council makes it super easy. We've got an app. So if you've got a smartphone, it takes you 3 steps. You download the app. You can pull up every piece of state legislation, in some cases, rules that are going through agencies. And within a few clicks, you can send something to an agency official, your House or your Senate member, and say how it impacts the company, or use an HR professional. They've got this anxiety, and elected officials are people too.
Yeah.
They don't have all the answers. They need to hear from HR professionals because they are the expert in the HR field.
Yeah, I think we talk a lot about how HR sits between the company and the employee, but really HR has an opportunity to be the voice of both. You're so intimately involved in the company's needs and the people's needs that where other, I'm actually in marketing, as people might know. I don't have that impact. I don't have that ability to sit between the two pieces in the way that HR professionals do. So really, we talk about people being the most important part of human resources, putting the human back into human resources. And it's not just about your own organization, but seeing the bigger ramifications.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you play a pretty important role on the marketing side of it because you're maybe that first impression that the public or an individual thinking to work for that company has of that impression of the company. So, but the HR professional, they're the guardians of individual civil rights, but they're also working for the management. And sometimes the management from the top down is very supportive and has a place at the table of helping to run that and manage that human capital. And other times it's not seen. It's seen as a cost driver and it's seen as, well, here's what we want to do, just go do it without thinking through the bigger impact or the global impact that the public may have and in turn what consumers may affect that company's bottom line.
Absolutely. I love that phrase, guardian. That's fantastic. All right. That might be winning for my favorite phrase or word tonight. So, how do you describe the purpose of human resources?
I'd go back to that. Human resources is managing human capital. It's in most cases, it's the largest cost to companies, but it's also the the biggest investment. Is to make sure that if you don't have good people running your company, from the frontline worker up through the CEO, then you don't have that culture that's actually helping promote either the profit or the mission of the company, whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit company. And so, that guardian of civil rights, I use that all the time because that's what HR professionals are. They need to manage to what the law says and the protections that are there. They also need to make sure that management understands you just can't do whatever you want to do and expect your employees to kind of follow suit.
Right.
You have confines of the law to operate in. And so there's a right way to do it and a wrong way. Sometimes it's black and white with the law. Sometimes there's a gray area, but you got to find that. You got to find partners. And that's where the legal side comes in. You got to find partners to make sure you navigate those HR waters.
Wonderful. All right. So what is one takeaway from the conference that you have so far?
I think it's what I think we all know. This profession is about people. It's about networking. It's about, being humble and knowing that you don't have all the answers, but you might have networked with someone who you can pick up the phone and talk to that might be able to help you navigate an issue that you're dealing with in the future to make human resources less stressful, less anxiety in that process. So the whole theme, we are family, I think really comes out in that. And so that's where that's the takeaway so far. But I think I try to pull from that every chance I get, whether it's interacting at a conference or talking to folks and interacting as a state council member. We all have something to learn from each other and can help each other along the way.
I think that's incredibly poignant that events like these are here to network, to make connections, because sometimes people are HR departments of one, sometimes they're HR departments of many, but don't have that mentor, that guidance, that, let me see what this other organization, what the state council recommends. It's so important to make those connections at a conference like this.
Yeah, and we do this conference, the HR conference in September, I think 25th through the 27th. Next year, we do the Employment Law and Legislative Conference. Next year, it's May 15th and 16th. That's in Columbus at the Renaissance. So we try to make sure that we're providing opportunities for people to get together. and hear from professionals that can share stories, can talk about things that they've experienced throughout their professional careers that at some point may help as a takeaway, or it may be a phone call later on to help out.
Wonderful. All right. Last question. How do you describe someone who does HR like a boss?
It's someone who every day that they get up, they feel good about what they're doing and take charge of the role that they've got. And it's really actually a pretty humbling, important role that HR professionals play. They may not know that, how important they are, but when you think about the impact, both positively and negatively, that they have on an individual and that individual's family and that company and the community they operate in and the product or the services that that company's providing and who's actually providing it within that company, it's a pretty awesome role.
Yeah.
And so someone who can actually pick up and really own being, an HR professional like a boss, because they really should be running the show. The CEO may have the title, but they really need the chief human resource officer that's either at the same level or just under along and making those kind of decisions for the entire company and the people that work there.
Yeah, I think so often you assume, CEO, then you have the COO, the CFO, and they're working together, and you lose that people piece because it's, very process oriented and operations, very maybe black and white. And then you have the finance, which is definite, well, it might be red and green, but you really need the people to be involved in those big decisions. Otherwise, you're not going to, make an impact.
Right. And I think it's communicating what things mean, what decisions that the company's making, and how HR can translate. The worst thing that I think HR professionals can go through is a downsize.
Yeah.
But if they explain how that downsize is important to the structure of the company and the longevity of the company and those that still remain with the company and the transition to get people back into the workforce and the assistance that comes along with that, it's a matter of the way you frame it.
Yep.
If you're silent on decisions that are being made, that may be a rough go with the individuals that are there because there's anxiety of whether they're going to lose their job.
Right.
So to me, it's that two-way communication with every employee in the entire operation to make sure that they understand what decisions are being made that hopefully help the company and the HR professional navigate those waters.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for letting me ask some more questions about lobbying.
No, I'm happy to do that.
Yes,
So
awesome. Thank you,
thank
Tony,
you.
so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Have a good- Yes, you too. All right. Well, that was our last guest on the Ohio HR Conference, HR Like a Boss podcast live. We are going to wrap up for the night, but we had a lot of fun talking to the conference attendees, the speakers, some old friends. And just before we go, HR Like a Boss, your guide to amazingly awesome HR, comes out October 24th. There are some fantastic events in the Northeast Ohio area, including the Future of HR at the Wild Eagle Saloon in Broadview Heights on October 26th from 3 to 5. All attendees of that event will receive a copy of HR Like a Boss. And it will be a panel discussion with Tim Sackett, Jennifer McClure, Lauren Rudman, and George Sample. Then we also need to talk a little bit about Willery. We are an HR and payroll staffing and consulting firm. We focus on making sure that organizations have the people they need to get the job done and the HR technology that supports and manages those decisions. So if you need help with your people or your technology, give us a call at 1-855-WILLERY. How to get that? I know that. Lizzie's laughing at me because I do know that, and I feel a little like a late night talk show host, or info@willery.com. All right. Thank you. And everyone have a great and fun and safe rest of your evening at the Ohio HR Conference.